Okay, I'm going to be installing some Santa Barbara Surf SBS rail tape on this stand-up board. It's 8.7 and the rail tape is 83 by 3.5. So what I've got here is the tape sitting in the sun. You don't want to do the installation cold. You want to make sure that the tape has had time to warm up and is now quite easy to move. When it comes in the package, it's all wound up. Some people will reverse roll the tape in order to get it to lay flat. There are many ways to do this installation. This is just the way I like to do it. So first of all, you want to measure, see where the tape is going to fit on the rail, both lengthwise and widthwise. Once you've got that kind of established and you know where that's going to start, you may want to put a small piece of tape. One of the items that I recommend. Some masking tape. You may want to use a tape measure to measure from the tail up. Depending on how far you go, you want to match that on the opposite side. Definitely want to use some alcohol or some sort of cleaning solution. Some paper towels. Get that nice and clean. You don't want to apply this onto a dirty rail, and you also want to make sure that you have very clean hands. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean that rail. I've got the board positioned between two chairs. If you're going to be doing this by yourself, some people like to put the board between their legs to stabilize it, or if you have another set of hands, that makes it even easier. What I'm going to do first of all is just make sure that this rail is super duper clean. There's no oils, there's no residue. Nice and clean all the way up the rail. I tend to strike the board further towards the tail, so that's my starting point where I like to really focus. So there are different ways to do this. Like I said, some people like to line the tape up in the middle of the rail. Some people like to use, say, this pinstripe as their guide. I tend to like to use the very bottom of the board as the guide, where I try and line this up, because this is going to curve as we move further up the board. Actually, there is some tail rocker here as well, so there is a bit of a curve in the tail of this board and then also at the tip of the board. So my preference is to line it up, and this board happens to have this nice blue edge here, color change. This is obviously the bottom where the water is going to be flowing, and so I like to line it up with that blue edge right there. So to start this, I don't unravel the entire piece. I just start with just the tip. You pull it back far enough, be away from that round edge. Now I'm to where the tape is even on both sides, widthwise. And I'm going to just start by putting this, my preference is about somewhere between halfway between the rear fins and the front fins. So I'm lining this up. Got to be very careful not to get bubbles. That is the most important factor in this whole process. There I go. Making sure it's all lined up nice and even. And you can always peel this back and restart if you really mess up. There I go. Following that blue edge and up the rail and flattening the tape out. Halfway, a little bit further with this, and I'm also pulling from side to side in order to get this lined up with that blue edge. So I do not want it to wrap around the bottom of the board. I'm trying very carefully not to get any bubbles. Smooth it out with your finger, thumb. Moving very slowly. Do not rush this process. If you get a bubble, you can just kind of peel it back a little bit. Restart. Working your way towards the nose of the board. Some people like to do a wet installation. I have tried that on other boards, but it tends to slip and slide. It doesn't stay stuck as well. It's harder to follow the rocker and really manipulate the tape to follow that edge if it's wet, from my experience. This tape, like I said, is nice and pliable because it's been sitting in the sun. It's also about 75 degrees out. So I definitely recommend doing this on a warmer day when it's sunny if possible. Now, if I were to line this up with that white pinstripe going up the board, there's a difference in width in this pinstripe from this edge where it's white to this edge where it's white. That blue strip is a different width as I go up the board. So it would, if I followed this, it would actually probably wrap around to the bottom of the board. Does not need to go underneath the board. The paddle will not hit the bottom of the board. Now I'm starting to get up towards the tip of the nose here, definitely more rocker. So it does require me to manipulate the tape and pull it that direction as I unravel. Once again, following this line, the blue line. Trying not to touch the tape with my fingers. The sticky side of the tape, that is. Okay, now that I've got that on, I'm going to go back towards the tail. Start pushing this carefully around the edges evenly to eliminate any bubbles. A little bit harder here because there's so much more rocker. You can see that the tape isn't laying naturally very flat here. That's why you have to go really slow. Press down carefully. Start allowing it to bend. See how that tape is definitely molding for the shape of that rail there. That's the hardest part.
Now, if I were to get a bubble that I didn't like, I would just grab the edge and peel back past that bubble and then reapply. Now again, I want to do this kind of evenly. I don't want to just do it all in one push towards the nose. I want to do little bits at a time so I can even out that compression that's happening from here to here along that top edge. I can even that out over that entire length. I don't want it to all bunch up in one spot. So to avoid that bunching, I just slowly go a little bit at a time along this entire edge. A little bubble there. Use the inside from your pointer finger and your thumb to smooth it out. And there it is. Rail tape by Santa Barbara Surfing, SBS, available on Amazon.